All right, guys, welcome to the Green Zone. This is our Super Bowl edition. We will start it off with our Super Bowl picks. I'll give you guys a bunch of prop bets, and then we'll finish off the podcast by getting into last week's games. They were a doozy. They were crazy. A lot to talk about, a lot to digest there. But first, let's go over the Super Bowl predictions. All right, guys, this is a game that honestly I could see going either way. I know I've said that recently, or at least with some games this year, but I'm going to first give you an argument for the Rams, then I'll give you an argument for the Pats, and then I'll tell you where I side. The Rams can win this game. Yes, they can. And it's through kind of obvious means if you've watched any Rams games this year, but I'll break it down for you. First off, the Rams set up their awesome offense via Sean McVay and his genius through the run. Everything that the Rams do is through the run, and it all is dependent upon that. They run a lot of play action. They like to put Jared Goff in easy situations where he really can't mess things up. That's why you see him rolling out to one side with a 2 or 3 different options set there, maybe in layers. You got a running back rolling with them or a fullback, and then you've got they don't usually use a fullback, but you got a running back rolling with him, a tight end, and then a receiver maybe over the top. A few different options there as he rolls out, and it's just easy for him to make that decision. McVay does not like to put Goff in situations where he can make mistakes. If you haven't noticed, McVay waits to put the play in at the last minute because he likes to see the defense and then tell Goff what to run. Good quarterbacks are able to see the defense themselves and then make adjustments there. Peyton Manning did it his whole career. Famously noted for the fact that his offensive coordinator would just give him a run or a pass option. He'd really call the play from what he saw with the defense. Goff is kind of the opposite of that, right? But he has McVay there. He has McVay as that little angel on his shoulder just guiding him every which way and all the way through the game for him. Belichick will definitely make that a hard issue. We can get into that later. But that's how McVay helps Goff, all right? Now, the offense is not predicated on Goff, so I want to say this. I'm not saying Goff is a bad quarterback. He's a respectable quarterback. Ran a pro system in college. They don't have a ton of great skill athletes at Cal there. Sorry, Cal. So he made them look good, and that's good. But we don't need to get too worried about Goff not being as good as Brady here, because the bottom line here is McVay drives that offense through his run game and the jet fly motion sweeps. And also, Todd Gurley, C.J. Anderson. Now, that brings us to the Todd Gurley, C.J. Anderson issue. We don't really know the running back situation. It'd be great if we knew Todd Gurley's status. It'd be great if we knew that he was healthy. We don't. We don't know what's going on there. So it's a little risky. I still like C.J. Anderson. He's turned himself into a little bowling ball here. He was never quite fast enough, but he was never quite big enough. So now he's just made himself into this little bowling ball of kind of like fat, but he's still serviceable and fast enough. So he'll give you 4 or 5 yards a chunk. He's not as good as an explosive as Gurley, but he is a serviceable running back. Great job, Raiders, dropping C.J. Anderson and giving him to the Rams. Can't tell you how much I love that. I'm being sarcastic, really, with the Rams being in the Niners division. So, C.J. Anderson's a good running back. I think he gets his anyways. If the Patriots struggle on defense in either category, it's definitely their rush defense. That is their weakness. Their pass defense isn't that great either, but they do have Stephon Gilmore and McCourty back there, so they can make plays. So, they are weak at the running position. You saw what they did to the Chiefs. The Rams, I like to, equivocate to the NFC version of the Chiefs. The Chiefs were able to pretty much get almost whatever they wanted to on the ground. That's why it was very important for the Pats to start in front and continue to run the clock, keep the control of the game clock, and to keep the ball in Brady's hands and out of Mahomes. They're going to try to do the same thing to the Rams. However, like I said, the Rams have a good rush offense. They should be able to get theirs on the ground. Flip it over to the defense for the Rams. The Rams have 2 players on their defense that are bound to be put in a situation to control this game if they're able to do it, if they're able to get through that Pats great offensive line, which is very underrated. Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. You've heard of them. You know who they are. They're monsters up the middle. And the problem with them is if they can get pressure right up the middle, that is pressure right where Brady likes to live. Brady is a pocket passer. We all know it. I'm not giving you any new news here. The bottom line is he likes to climb the pocket. He'll take a few steps back, 3-step drop, 2-step drop, couple steps up. As he climbs the pocket, he lets the edge rushers go behind him, climbs the pocket, confidently steps into his throw, and hits his receivers clean. If you're getting pressure up the middle from Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald, Brady's not going to be able to confidently and consistently step up in the pocket. We do know that if there's one weakness of the GOAT, it is that he doesn't scramble and he's not that good under, quick, very fast pressure. He's very good at pre-snap reads. He can see who's coming, and he can eliminate pressure that way. But if you could still get pressure up the middle in quicker than 2 seconds, which Donald and Sue are able to do at times, it'll be a problem. And it could be a long day for Brady if that happens. So, rushing success on offense, interior pressure by the Rams on defense, and I really see this game going towards the Rams. Then if you're able to successfully run the ball, you get a couple play actions from the Rams. Goff hits Woods deep. Goff hits Cooks deep. By the way, Cooks is familiar with the Patriots and their defense and the schemes that Belichick may want to throw at him. He was there. I know it was only for a year, but he was there. So nobody's really talking about that, but that could play a factor as well. So that is how the Rams win the game. All right. Now for the Pats. If the Pats are going to win this game, they're going to do it by giving Goff a hard time. Now, this is still going to be an offensive game. I've said it since, week 2. This is an offensive league now. These teams will have to outscore each other as best as they can. Whoever's defense makes a couple of plays, giving their offense a couple of extra possessions will be the defense that probably wins the game. But rest assured that you will have to keep up with one another scoring points in this game. I do not think this will be a low-scoring game. I think the refs are going to have to try to stay out of this game with the fiascos of last week. That said, with them staying out of it, I could see maybe the defense is being a little bit more aggressive. Maybe that keeps it lower, but I also see, some offensive situations taking place as well. The bottom line is, guys, the Pats will have to outscore the Rams if they're going to try to beat them. They're going to have to get their running game going. That'll be tough with Sue and Donald in the middle. They've proven Sue now is trying to get his money. So he's got his last few games before his contract comes up at the end of this year. He's come alive lately. So it's going to be hard toting the rock for Sony Michel right up the middle. However, the Pats are one of the best teams at turning their passing game into an effective running type game. And the way that they do that is they take James White out of the backfield, they shift him over, and they get him out in the flats quickly. And Tom Brady will dump it to him all day. I expect a big game from James White. Rob Gronkowski. If the Pats are to win this game, they're going to have big games from Rob Gronkowski, James White, and Julian Edelman. Yes, Sony Michel may score a touchdown, maybe even 2, but he doesn't necessarily have to go for 125 yards for the Pats to win this game. He just needs to effectively have a good, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 runs up the middle that makes the Rams respect the run and then have to worry about that threat as well. James White out of the backfield is going to be a problem for either Roby Coleman or Littleton. They are fast, they are good in coverage, but James White is a great receiving back. He's going to get his. Julian Edelman is going to be a big problem for Roby Coleman. Roby Coleman is already giving bulletin board material to the GOAT. Huge mistake, Roby. I don't know what you're doing, man. It really is ridiculous. Everybody saw what you did last week. You're just acting like a douche. Stopping Gronk, I do not see one player on the Rams that can stop Gronkowski. Now, pump the brakes if you think Gronkowski has lost a step or 2. I get it. This may be what he considers his last game. Whether it is or isn't really doesn't matter. If Gronk comes in with the mindset that this is going to be the last game that he plays, and possibly, quite possibly, the last Super Bowl he ever attends or makes it to, trust me, he will be coming into the game overamped out of his mind. They've got smelling salts. He'll be so pumped up on adrenaline. You're going to see a Gronkowski running around out there like a young 22-year-old Gronk. It really is something I think people are overlooking. I think Belichick knows this. He won't overlook it. And so I do believe you will see great things from Gronk. So again, if the Pats are going to win, I do believe they're going to have to outscore the Rams. They're going to have to do it more offensively than defensively. On the defensive side, I know Belichick is a genius, and I know that he can stop a McVay in a McVay-type offense. Or let's say I think he can stop. McVay is a genius in his own sense. The way that the Pats will have to do it on defense is they will first off have to shut down that run. Second, what Belichick is going to do is he's notorious for taking away one of your best weapons and making your second or your third best option win the game for you, if you will. He finds out he's really good at diagnosing your strengths and your weaknesses. Okay, then he makes you play to your weaknesses and takes away your strengths. Belichick knows that one of the more weaker players out of this Rams offense is Jared Goff. He will make it to where the Rams will have to beat the Pats via Jared Goff in his arm. That's what I believe Belichick will sell out to do. He will sell out to stop the run. He will sell out and put multiple bodies in the box and basically put pressure on Goff as much and as often as he can and say, if you're going to beat us, the kid's going to have to do it. Not saying that Goff can't do it, but that's a tall order against a Belichick run defense. The Pats defense is not the best defense in the league at all, or by any means necessary, but they do have a genius in Belichick. He will cover up their weaknesses, and he will make Goff beat them. That's a tall order for Goff there. So Pats will have to put up a lot of points, and then on defense, make Goff beat them. Rams will have to run the ball effectively, and then on defense, get interior pressure on Brady. Having said how I feel about both teams, guys, I got to tell you, I'm going with the Pats. Yes, I know it was a couple of weeks ago I said I like both teams out of the NFC. I think the NFC beats the AFC no matter what. I would have liked it better if it was a Rams-Chiefs matchup. I like the Rams in that matchup. Rams-Pats is probably the last matchup I saw coming. Should have been Saints-Pats. We'll get into that in a second. I should have been right. Could have been swimming in some money here, guys. But the bottom line is the Rams are the second best team in the AFC. The Pats are the best team in the AFC. Now, I thought that the AFC was weaker than the NFC, so that probably means that this should be a great match. I do anticipate this to be a close game. I do anticipate the Pats to win. If you're telling me that I get Tom Brady, Belichick in a close game in the Super Bowl versus McVay and Goff, I'm going to take Brady and Belichick every time. I know, call me old school. I don't see the changing of the guard happening right now just yet, not this year. I see Brady playing for a few more years, and I see the changing of the guard happening in the AFC Championship. Pointing behind me because that happened last week, guys. It's tough to beat the GOAT on these terms. How many of you can really imagine Tom Brady losing 2 games in a row? Don't worry, I'll wait. Go ahead. Yeah, 2 games in a row. I'm sorry, 2 Super Bowls in a row. Belichick and Brady are going to lose to very similar teams. I mean, if the Rams win, they'll almost certainly do it in a similar fashion that the Eagles won last year. And what I mean by that is Goff's going to have to make some plays. And then on top of that, the defense is going to have to make some plays at crucial points of the game. Now, Donald and Sue can definitely do that. Can Goff make those plays? That's really the question. That's where that in lies. That's the biggest question of the game for me, guys. So I'm calling the X Factor Jared Goff. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, it's more Josh Reynolds, it's more Cordell Patterson. I think the X Factor is Jared Goff. If Jared Goff can play well and he can hang with Tom Brady, tall order, make the timely passes that he needs to make the plays when that time comes, carry the offense if the Pats are shutting down the run, tall order for the Pats there, then the Rams can win this game. So I'm going with the Pats, guys. That's my prediction. I do believe it to be a close game. Therefore, when betting, I would like you guys to either take the Pats straight up or take the Rams plus the points. I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but the bottom line is, guys, this is going to be a close game. So when a close game is on the horizon, guys, the benefit is to take the team getting the points, right? If you've got, if it's a close game, you got a team minus points, then all you do is it's called a push. You do not make money there. If it's a close game, you got a team minus points, and the team was losing, then you lose. If you got a close game and you got a team plus points, and that team plus the points is losing, you push. Close game, but that team's winning, you win. So, look, it's not very hard to explain, guys. The bottom line is I would love it if the Rams were getting 3 or more points. They're only getting 2.5. That means Vegas expects this game to be close too. I'll take the Rams plus the 2.5. I would love to get 3. 3.5 would be great. If it was Rams plus 5, I would jump all over it. I'd put my money all over that. It's the NFL, if they showed you anything last week, they showed you that they are very much interested in making these games close, keeping them close, and keeping us on the edge of our seats until that final second clicks off the clock there, guys. Saints fans, the NFL does not hate Saints fans. What they want is the viewer on the edge of their seat up until that last second clicks off that clock. And if they make that call, that ends the game with 1:30 left. That was 1:30 left to keep the ratings up. People glued to their seats, and they didn't have the balls to make a call to end the game at that point. They wanted it to go to OT. That's even better, or at least come down to the last second. So, that is that there, guys. So I'm saying take the Pats if you're going straight up. I like the Pats to win. Take the Rams plus the points. There's more upside there taking the underdog. In a game where both teams can win, take the money. Take the underdog. All right, guys. Now we're going to go over some prop bets. I'll give you guys the option at the end. I'll go over last week's games are so far away at this point. So I'll give you guys, I'll do the recap of those games at the end of the podcast. So if you don't want to listen, don't. Go away. I don't care. So here we go, guys. First, we have the prop bets. Now, I'm getting these prop bets from a couple of different places. First from mybookie.com and then from bovada.com. We're going to start with the mybookie.com prop bets. First one I got, guys, Brady throwing for over 314.5 yards. I like the over on that. I like Brady to throw more than 314.5 yards. I just told you guys that if the Pats win this game, they're going to have to outscore the Rams, and I do see that happening. So 314 yards, Brady threw for 500 yards in a losing effort in last year's Super Bowl. I know a lot of people are kind of thinking that same logic, so it's a risky bet. Usually you want to go opposite of the money in the Super Bowl. Oh, by the way, guys, there are a lot of pro bettors that are staying away from predicting the game. They're staying away from the money line on the game as well. A lot of pro bettors are specifically and only doing prop bets this year. I'm going to give you both because I got the huevos to do it, okay? So listen up. Now we got Brady over 2.5 touchdown passes. I could see Brady throwing 3, possibly 4 touchdown passes in this. Oh, guys, I also want... I'm going to say take the over at 58. I always like to give you an over-under. You guys know that. I'm always going to give that to you on the green zone here. You can play the under, and you can make a convincing argument as to why the under is the better play here. I understand that. Overs have been cashing in all year. Overs have been cashing in a lot in the playoffs. Last week, we went 3-1 because I picked an under in the Saints game and the over in the Pats game. Those both cashed in. I also picked the Pats to win, minus the points, and then the Saints minus the points to win, and that didn't work there. So, so 3-1 last week, if I didn't already go over that. But look, I like the over better, or the point spread better when it was sitting at 57, or sitting at 56 and then 57. I know that now at 58 it's only a couple point difference, but those are some big points, guys. I do see this game kind of coming down to that 55, 56, 57, maybe 58 point total. If it's that close, I'm going to root for the over, because I don't want to sit back and enjoy and watch the Super Bowl and just hope for nobody to score. And at this point, it's already shown, the league's already shown its true colors and what it is. So pull for the over in that one. Like I said, you can convince me if you want to go under there. Brady over 314.5 yards. Brady over 2.5 touchdown passes. Goff, touchdown passes, over 2. I like Goff throwing 2 touchdown passes, so that's a push at the very minimum. If he gets a bonus third one in there and a comeback faster or anything like that, or to try to put the Pats away early, then you win. And great. Love it. Goff, interceptions. I like the over at 0.5. That means if Goff throws 1 interception, you're in the money there. I really like this bet, guys. I think Stephon Gilmore is a lockdown, shutdown corner. I know that Goff is the type of quarterback where he doesn't really throw interceptions. He'll throw it into the ground before he throws an interception. But Belichick is going to be throwing a lot of different looks at Goff, and it's hard for me to believe that Goff isn't going to make one big mistake that costs them at least 1 turnover. Whether that be a fumble or an interception or both, I don't know. But I'll take the over at 0.5 in that situation. Excuse me. Most passing yards, Brady versus Goff. Give me Brady all day. I know it's passing yards and not touchdowns. I still like Brady for the most passing yards. Pretty much all they do in New England is pass. This one seems a little weird to me. Maybe I'm not seeing something that I should be, but the bottom line is most of the quote-unquote running plays for the Pats are just short passing plays to either Gronk or James White or even Sonny Michel. I know they don't use Sonny in the passing game as much, but effectively their short yard passing game is their running game. So I definitely see Brady getting more passing yards than Goff there. I like that one a lot. Will Sonny Michel score a touchdown? That is a yes or no question. My answer to that is yes. Sonny Michel is the guy that you've been seeing doing this over and over in all the different games that he's played so far. He has been scoring left and right. Sony Michel has been a touchdown machine. I know the Rams had a good run defense right up that interior, run stoppers right in the middle there with Donald and Sue, and Barron. Yes, there's a lot of other guys on that defense as well. Sorry for not giving those guys credit. Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters are playing a lot better, but in the secondary there. But I do see Sony Michel getting into the end zone at least once there. All right, moving on to the Bovada.com prop bets, guys. I've got the first offensive play being a run. I think both teams are going to want to establish the run in this game, especially the Rams. But the Pats will too. Belichick knows that he's going to have to establish that run to keep the Pats engine running. So I do see both I don't think either team is going to try to surprise with a flea flicker or anything crazy on the first play. So I like a run for the first play of this game. More receiving yards, Edelman or Robert Woods. To me, guys, this is a no-brainer. I love Edelman. I don't think Roby Coleman can guard Julian Edelman at the same time. Stephon Gilmore does have the ability to shut down a wide receiver. Now, he will bite on play fakes. He will try to jump a route because he likes to be the hero of the game. But for the most part, he stays consistent and he stays back and he will shut down a receiver. The Rams' best receiver is considered to be Robert Woods. I like Stephon Gilmore in that matchup. Goff will probably have to go somewhere else. We've seen it so many times before, guys. This is a testament to sustained greatness, which is what I've been saying about the Pats all along this season. I don't know why people counted them out so early. Sustained greatness accurately defines what the Pats are and their franchise is about. Stephon Gilmore and the rest of that Pats defense, they will know their role. They will do their jobs. I do not see them making a lot of mistakes here. So the Rams will have to beat them. The Pats will not make mistakes to help them. Gronk, over 4.5 receptions, guys. Now, the next one, I'm going to give you a few guys on the Pats that I think are going to go over the reception totals. It would be a mistake to bet all three. Maybe take one, possibly two. Don't take all three here. It would be too hard for all three to get this much action. It could happen, but odds are it won't. So take one or two of the following. I like Gronk over 4.5 receptions. Again, guys, I think it's going to be a huge game for Gronk. He knows this is possibly his last game. You give me a fired up, adrenaline running Gronk. I like that a lot. So over 4.5 receptions for Gronk. Edelman, over 7 receptions. Again, I do not think Roby Coleman can stop Julian Edelman. He's ran his mouth. The storyline of him getting burnt and being toasted after running his mouth about an old Tom Brady, who's obviously lost a step or two. I know he tried to recount that, but that storyline is just, it's too juicy to not happen. The NFL loves storylines, so I see Roby Coleman getting toasted, and that means more than 7 receptions for Julian Edelman. They may double him, but you got to double one or the other, Edelman or Gronk. You can't double both. So maybe you take one of those two guys. James White, total receptions. I like him having over 6.5. Now you see why I said don't take all 3 overs. That's a little bit too much love to be spread around. Now Brady can definitely do that, but I would take 1 or 2 of the 3 guys. James White is the receiving back of the Patriots. He has gone over 6.5 receptions in numerous Super Bowls for the Pats. So I like that bet there. Total rushing yards for C.J. Anderson, 49.5. Now, you'll notice on a lot of my prop bets, guys, I have focused more on the Pats skill players than I have the Rams. It is for a reason. The Rams skill players are not as predictable as the Pats. We know who the Pats are going to go to. They're going to go to James White, Sony Michel, Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski, sprinkle in a little Cordero Patterson. That's fine. When it comes to the Rams, however, you've got Belichick possibly shutting down one of their best options. Whether he focuses on the run and that's C.J. Anderson or Todd Gurley, we don't know. We don't know the health of Todd Gurley. If Todd Gurley is healthy, he could play the whole game and thus eliminating C.J. Anderson's role. However, if Todd Gurley's not healthy, C.J. Anderson is the number 1 running back like we've seen throughout these entire playoffs. Gurley has had 2 weeks to get healthy. And then you have the X factor of Belichick. He's going to shut down your best weapon. Is he going to focus on the run? Is he going to focus on shutting down Robert Woods? Is he going to play head games with Jared Goff? probably all three, guys. So it's really difficult to make prop bets on the Rams players. I do like this one, though. C.J. Anderson's over-under is sitting at 49.5 rushing yards. That's not very much for C.J. Anderson. He's getting 4 or 5 pounds to the toe. Or pounds. Sorry, C.J. Sorry, you're a little chunky, so I got weight on the mind when I talk about you. But he's getting 4 to 5 yards every time he touches or totes the rock. So what does that tell me? 49.5 yards. Even if Gurley is playing and he's healthy and he's making the plays that he's making, C.J. Anderson is going to be mixed in. He will get his touches. He's played too well recently to not get his touches. 49.5 yards, not that big. I'll take the over on that. Get it done, little bowling ball, C.J. Total rushing and receiving yards for James White. The over on this is my favorite bet of the entire prop, the entire podcast, the entire YouTube viewing audience for you guys here, right here. Total rushing and receiving yards, James White over at 75.5. James White gets 75.5 all-purpose yards in his sleep. In the Super Bowl, with interior pressure, needing an emergency outlet, whether that be Gronk or James White, it's going to be one of them. I think Tom Brady gets it to James White quite often. I like the over 75.5. All-purpose yards is what we call receiving and rushing yards. Bovada, by the way. Will the Rams have a rushing touchdown in the game? Did not know this was a question, a serious thing. They better hope they have a rushing touchdown in the game. I'll give you that much. If the Rams don't get a single rushing touchdown in this game, I promise you, this is a green zone promise, they do not win the Super Bowl. So, take the yes on the Rams getting a touchdown in the game, guys. There are plenty more prop bets to be had on Bovada and or MyBookie. Bovada has specifically set up a prop bet sheet. They've got about 10 questions on there that you can just go through and click the answer to each one. I advise you guys to go in there, take a look at everything, and pick and choose what you do and don't like. Obviously, I'm not going to review prop bets. How long will the national anthem go on? What color is the top the dude for Adam Levine is wearing or whatnot. I don't know any of that stuff, guys. Do not bet on that stuff unless you have inside information. That is the type of stuff that can be fixed. If I have to choose on the coin toss, I'm going tails. It never fails. I have to tell you guys, though, my coin toss luck and prediction is terrible. So you should all go heads. Everybody bet heads. That is it for the Super Bowl predictions, guys. If you want to hang on, I am going to go over last week's games. They were too crazy to not go over them. I've got too much to say about them to just ignore them. So here we go. Without any further ado, as I like to say here, we have the Saints at the Rams game that took place first. And so I laugh because obviously we know what happened in that game, guys. The no call at the end of the game by Roby Coleman was an incredible mistake by the NFL. They've already issued an apology. They could have called a few different things. They had 3 different referees looking at that play. They had him in, I guess, triangle bracket coverage is what you'd call it, meaning that each referee was in the place that they should have been. If you watch the replay, they were looking directly at the play. Guys, they saw it. And you cannot argue that this is an uncatchable ball. I've heard some local talk around here that was a bad pass. No, it was a seam route, and Cooks was running up the sideline. If Roby Coleman just takes him out, if he's able to continue up the sideline, it's an over-the-shoulder pass. It probably lands right into his hands. So, nevertheless, it really didn't even have to come down to it. I've heard a lot of the hot take this entire week has been, well, the Saints shouldn't have been in that situation. Yeah, it was a terrible no call, would have ended the game, but the Saints shouldn't have been in that situation. They had opportunities in the beginning of the game to take an advantage. They only came up with 6 points. Saints shouldn't have been in that position. And at the end of the game, the Saints still had a chance, win it overtime, but they were still worried about the call. Saints shouldn't have been in that position. Okay, guys, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Does anybody believe in momentum? I know I do. Anybody who has played a sport knows that momentum does exist. And I hate when people who don't play sports don't think it exists because you don't know what you're talking about. The bottom line is when Sean Payton was asked about momentum, he said, I really don't worry about that. I worry just about the ups and downs of the game. That's coach talk, or coach speak, as we say, of momentum. That's what momentum is, the ups and downs of the game. So he didn't want to play into it too much because he knew a big momentum swing could hurt his team. So he downplayed it, but that doesn't mean that Sean Payton is saying that there's not momentum in football. So after that play, with that no call, with that situation, I could feel it watching it in my family room, guys. There was no momentum going towards the Saints. The entire energy of that stadium was sucked out of New Orleans as a whole. You could feel it. You could sense it. Even just watching it on TV, you cannot imagine what that felt like at the game. I'm not making excuses for the Saints. They did have an opportunity to win. Breeze did throw that interception. Good pressure up the middle. But then on defense, they kind of made a stop. A 57-yard field goal is by no means allowing the Rams to just trot down the field. That's the other argument I heard. They didn't allow them. They stuffed them for a 57-yard field goal. That's a long field goal. Greg the leg just happened to hit it. So it's not like the Rams put together some awesome drive. Bottom line is, guys, it was a huge no call. It did cost them the game. It was an embarrassing look for the NFL. If you go on Twitter at all and you look at the reviews of that game, people are yelling and screaming about the fix. The fix is in. Look, you guys know me here on the Green Zone. I will go full conspiracy theory on you guys here. What I'm trying to say is, please do not think that Saints fans, you are unique to this. This does happen to other people, sometimes not in the brightest moments, but sometimes, yeah, in bright moments just like this. And what happens is everybody chooses to focus on the fact that maybe the NFL hates the Saints. Oh my God, the NFL loves LA. No, that's really not what it is, guys. If the Saints won that game, they have the storyline of Brady versus Breeze. And I hate that's what we got robbed of. Saints, your window is closed. That game felt and reminded me a lot of that NFC Championship game between the Niners and the Seahawks. And after that game, Sherman tipped that ball, interception. I knew the Niners' window was closed. That's what that game felt like. So I am sorry for you, Saints fan. That window is closed. But the NFL does not hate you. They do not hate you. The NFL wants a close game for as long as possible. They want you at the edge of your seat for every single moment of the game. They want the ratings through the roof. The NFL is a business. What does every business do? How can we improve our numbers from year to year? We profited this much. How do we make sure we profit that much and even more and double it the next year? The NFL looks at its ratings and says, we got this great ratings. How do we get double our ratings? I don't know. We start making it all offense and scoring multiple touchdowns and hide behind the guise of making it because of safety issues and safety rules. That no call could have been a helmet-to-helmet call. Why didn't they call it? I'll tell you why. If they make that call, they effectively end the game with 1:30 left. It was a close game. They wanted this game to come down to the final seconds. Overtime is a bonus. They got everything they wanted and more. They got overtime. They got a 57-yard field goal to end the game. That was exactly what the NFL wanted. The problem is, they were hoping they wouldn't have to make a no call or have a no call that made it so obvious as to what they were doing. But apparently, people focus on the fact that the Saints, must be hated, and the Rams are the bigger market, so that's why the NFL wanted them there, and blah blah blah. It's not that sophisticated, guys. It's as simple as taking a look at the very next game. Chiefs fans, I don't want to hear any complaining out of you. The way that game happened was the refs wanted to keep it safe. They had orders. I should say, they had orders from the higher-ups to keep that game close. If we're going full conspiracy here, guys. Every time the Pats started to pull away, the Chiefs would come back. And how would they come back? Well, they would come back with mostly pass interference calls. They were getting a lot of calls. Early in that game, Tony Romo was saying, I don't know, Jim. They're letting him get away with a lot of holding there, Jim. And then later on, he starts to say, well, that is holding, and the Pats that is pass interference. Yes, of course, that's pass interference on the Pats. Every time they called it, the Chiefs' last drive to score the tying points was mainly built from pass interference calls, guys. So, and the way you fix a game isn't by throwing flags all over the place. It's by allowing one team defense to get away, the team that's behind, to get away with borderline, beating up the receiver, and call every time the DB on the winning team's side, throw a flag every time you can, every time there's any sort of physical contact. That's how you get a team to come from behind and catch up. And that's all you have to do. So it's really just call it one way on this side, the team that's behind, help them out, no calls on the other side. That's what they did in the Saints game. They no-called that play because it ends the game. They were in the lead. They would have milked the clock, bleeded it down to 3 seconds remaining, kicked the field goal. They go up by a touchdown. Game's over. It's over. So, getting to the Chiefs, I've got a lot of notes here, guys. Dan Arnold's drop was a killer to the opening of the game. That's the guy who dropped the end zone at the opening of the game, dropped the pass in the end zone at the opening of the game, the second tight end for the Saints. Those 2 early stops by the Rams defense in the red zone were huge. Instead of 14-0, it was 6-0. However, I will say, if the Saints go up 14-0 there, does anybody doubt that the Rams would have come back and it would have been 14-14? I don't. The NFL would have made sure that the Rams came back and it was 14-14. Just like in the Super Bowl we saw last year. Close game all the way down to the end. Look, if you don't believe me, how rare is it for there to be so many close games in these hugely, hugely magnified games? How hard would that be? Eventually, you're going to have a blowout. Eventually, you're going to have a stinker, a skunk of a game, somebody just whooping on the other one. It never happens anymore. Never happens. That's weird. That's strange to me. That's really strange. You would have had somebody just whooping somebody in one of these championship games and also possibly one of these Super Bowls. But every Super Bowl where there's a lopsided victory, we all come away from it like, yeah, the Super Bowl sucked. Well, the NFL tries to change that. And that's why I like taking the Rams plus the points. If this game is kept close, take the points. I would like 3 because it could still be close with the Pats winning by a field goal. So, anyways, 14-0. Can't believe the Rams fell for the jumping off sides on the 4th and short trick. I think the crowd affected the game immensely, the way that I thought it would when I made my predictions of the Saints going. 2 early drops by Gurley really hurt the Rams. Yes. The opening of the second half decided the game. 3 and out by the Saints. Defense and then a game-controlling drive that ends in 7 is exactly what they needed / wanted. So basically what I was saying was the Saints came out, decided the game. They got a 3 and out, and then the game-controlling drive that ends in 7 is exactly what they needed. The longest drive of the game, mentioned Breeze's interview. So basically, the Saints had control at that point. What I was saying previously before the game started, I was listening to Drew Brees' interview, and he had mentioned that he felt the best way that the Saints could win was by keeping the ball, keeping the time of possession, making long drives, and then coming up with 7. That's exactly what they did to come out and open up the second half. That was huge. There was a PI or holding on a huge 3rd down play, a huge missed call. And by the way, the Rams responded right after that. Did they get some calls to help them down the field with that response? You betcha. There was a PI or holding on a huge 3rd down play, huge missed call. Then I've got several notes that say, how in the world is that not PI? Sorry, guys. The game should have been over. The refs screwed the Saints and gave the game to the Rams. We should have been over after the Ted Ginn Jr. Catch. And basically that's it, guys. After that Ted Ginn Jr. catch, after that throw from Breeze, basically a 3 flies up ball, Ted Ginn Jr. comes down with it. The DB makes a terrible read on it. Ted Ginn allows that ball to come into his body. He doesn't even fully extend and catch the ball at its highest point, guys. He allows that ball to come into his body, and the DB still let him catch that. That is a terrible move by the wide receiver, an even worse move by the DB, yet the Saints lost the game because of a no call. And see, that Ted Ginn Jr. play should have been the game-winning play, and you don't want to reward a defense for that terrible of a play. It'd be like the Saints somehow winning last year after that safety whiffed at the Miracle in Minnesota, whatever they're calling it. It would have been like the Saints coming back and winning that game. They didn't deserve to win that game. They were done. That was it. That Ted Ginn Jr. catch sealed it. And then the PI in OT was an attempted makeup call. There was a PI call in overtime. It was an attempted makeup call, but it did not make up for it at all. Guys, there was also another huge call in that game that really hurt the Saints. They were trying to ice the game. And about like a 10-yard rush or something like that, a rush that really would have helped him out, and they got holding. Was it holding? Yes. Had there been previous holdings that were more egregious than that on the Rams' comeback drives to tie the game up? Yes. The answer is yes. If you do not believe me, go back and watch that game. Go back and watch the film. I bet you it's there. I saw it. All right, guys. Now we're moving on to the Pats versus the Chiefs. Edelman never touched that ball. Yes, I am saying that definitively. I'm hearing a ton of Chiefs fans, wham, 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 whine, whine, whine. You did not get screwed by the refs. If anything, the refs helped you to come back in that game, calling all those PI calls late in the game and letting you basically molest the Patriots wide receivers all damn second half. Edelman did not touch that ball. At first, I thought he definitely did, guys. They showed every single angle. I'm not really sure why there are still people that are doubting it. Every angle I saw, the ball was not touching his hand. Now, this goes back to, well, it was ruled on the field this way, and if it's not conclusive, then you can't overturn the call, blah, 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 blah. Guys, it was too big of a play to not overturn it. Like I said, that language is so stupid. It's never going to be completely conclusive when it's a play that has to be reviewed because it's such a close play. That means don't review anything. It's going to be close, and we got to just stick with what we came with because it's close, man. It means you're only ever going to challenge completely blown calls. Oh, but wait, we can't challenge no calls. So we got this tiny little margin of error that we can really fix, natural human error in reffing. Again, and the NFL is not going to give that up because it gives up control, guys. So you have to understand, Edelman did not touch that ball. It was the right call, and I was proud of the NFL for not calling it because despite what everybody thinks, anybody who thinks the NFL is a Tom Brady and Patriots fan, you're nuts. Roger Goodell went out of his way to make sure he suspended Tom Brady for the Deflategate. Tom Brady was his golden boy until Deflategate happened. And Goodell said, take your suspension like a good boy and go to the corner. And guess what Brady did? He did not take it. He went and appealed it. That very much upset Goodell. He not only appealed it, but he won the appeal. Goodell, then very upset at that, went to the courts and said, wait a minute, is the NFL a business? Yes, it is, sir. Is Brady one of my employees? Yes, he is, sir. Am I allowed to suspend or give consequences to my employees? Yes, you can, sir. You're suspended for 4 games, Brady. They went around the appeal. That is how upset Goodell got with Brady and the Patriots. Goodell is Robert Kraft's bitch, if you don't mind me saying here on the podcast. I apologize, guys. So to think that Goodell and the NFL loves Brady and the Pats, get out of here. Goodell would have loved to have seen a Chiefs-Rams Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Changing the guard, 2 young studs. It would have been great. It would have been almost as good as Brady and Breeze in the last possible pairing of these 2 great Hall of Fame quarterbacks. But it would have been, as far as storylines go, guys, there was one for every outcome, almost except for this one. So that's the part that bugs me about the whole conspiracy edge or angle on this one. They definitely went the worst route if they wanted a storyline. The only thing you can do in this is, you've got the rematch of the Tom Brady and the Pats versus the Rams, but there's really nobody on that team from the Rams that's the same. It's just Brady and Belichick. So I guess let's go Belichick versus McVay. That's the story. That's the only storyline you get, and that's why it's been so quiet this week. And the NBA's dominating the news right now as far as sports goes. So, anyways, the PI that set the Chiefs up for their second touchdown was not PI. So again, Edelman never touched that ball. The pass interference that set the Chiefs up for their second touchdown was not PI. So there you go. There's 2 calls right there, right off the rip. There's a call that makes up for the blown Edelman if you think that's a blown play or a blown call, which it wasn't. He never touched the ball. I don't have any video. I still, to this day, haven't seen any video evidence of Edelman touching the ball. I do have evidence of him not touching the ball. So, maybe my eyes are just better than most guys. I don't know. That interception, however, did touch Edelman. So that's supposed to be a little joke there. That interception, that did touch Edelman. That was right off of his hands. He let that one go. That was not roughing the passer on Tom Brady. Okay, so that's another one Chiefs fans are very upset about. And yes, you're right. That was not roughing the passer. And yes, there was a call that was similar that could have been roughing the passer. If you're going to call that, then you got to call roughing the passer on Mahomes. But at that point, guys, the game was already close. So they weren't helping the Chiefs at that moment. It was always going to come down to the end of the game in this one, guys. It always was. And at the end of the game, who won the coin toss? The Pats did. And who made the plays to score? The Pats did. That's why they win. And if the Chiefs can't make one stop, You don't deserve to win. D Ford, you shouldn't have jumped off sides. That was the play. That was the interception. You jump off sides in that situation, you blew it. You don't deserve to win. It's the same as Ted Ginn Jr. catching that reception over whatever DB that was that didn't play the ball at the height, to play the ball as high as he could. That's the mistake that deserves you to lose the game. Same as Roby Coleman getting the no call. That should have ended the game. That's a mistake that ends the game. So, anyways, that was not roughing the passer. Andy Reid. Oh, yeah. Andy Reid definitely looks like the Kool-Aid guy, guys. I know that we've all heard it. I know that's his nickname, but boy, does he look like that Kool-Aid guy. Oh, yeah. That Hogan reception was a catch. Oh, the Chris Hogan reception. That was a catch. That was absolutely a catch. That holding call they called against New England on Jackson was holding, but it was also the perfect example of how easy it is to fix football by calling penalties at important times and then not calling them on the team that's behind. That's what I've been saying this whole podcast, guys. You get what I'm trying to say. This ensures closer and more exciting games. Keep that in mind when you watch the Super Bowl. I promise you. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because I'm the only one seeing this, guys, but you have to watch the game more closely. You have to be educated. They will show you the replays of penalties, and you'll say, oh, yeah, that's pass interference. Then you have to take the time to watch the receivers in the other plays and see if the same thing is happening and there's no flag coming out. You have to be educated. So you either have to be at the game to watch that because the camera won't always show it. They're not going to show that. Or you have to keep your eyes in places where most people don't, which means most people watch the ball, watch the quarterback drop back, watch the receivers to see if it's being called both ways. You just got a huge holding call from the offensive line on a run play that would have iced the game for a team that's in the lead or kept them way too far ahead, takes away a big chunk gain. Watch the offensive line for the team that's behind. Do they do the same thing and it's not getting called? What's up with that? That's weird, right? Right. That's how you fix a game. All right. That was not PI by Jackson for the third PI call. The third PI call, which is mostly what that Chiefs drive consisted of. Pass interference calls. That's why I don't feel bad for you Chiefs fans at all. You got a lot of calls there to help you stay in the game. You couldn't cash it in the end. Well, that's what the NFL is going to do. It's going to give both teams a chance to stay in the game. People on the edge of their seats, ratings ratings galore. Then somebody's got to make a play and somebody's got to win the game. That's why the Saints game was upsetting, because it was a close game. They did make that play. That Ted Ginn Jr. was that play the NFL is looking for, but the refs didn't have the balls to end the game with 1:30 left on the clock. It's 1:30 of ratings. So, Romo even talked, this is what I talked about earlier. Romo even talked about how they were letting them play when referring to how the DBs for the Chiefs were holding. Early in that game, when the Pats were starting to really get ahead to the point where it'd be pretty obvious if the refs had to help the Chiefs any more than they already were, they were, quote-unquote, letting them get away with a lot here, GM. They're really letting them get away with a lot here, GM. I love Romo. I'm not making fun of him. I just love when he does that voice. They were letting him get away with a lot. Then all of a sudden, 3 pass interference calls right in a row. That's weird. I don't know. Strange. I was not impressed with the Chiefs' final drive. You can give credit to the refs as much as the Chiefs. That's what I hate about it. I think both of these games would have been fantastic games if the refs would have just stayed the hell out of it. You don't have to ensure that these are going to be close, good games. Does anybody doubt that those 2 games would have been close if the 2 teams were just allowed to play each other? Don't worry, I'll wait. No, everybody would have loved those games. Those 2 teams were evenly matched on both sides. We would have had incredible games for the ages on both sides. Nobody would be talking about the refs. 1 and 2 seeds on both sides. Let them get at it. Make sure nobody kills each other and ref it like that. You obvious play calls only. Get out of the way other than that. And it would have been a great game. Instead, we spent the last week talking about the refs. They stole the show from a 1 and 2 seed matchup on both sides of the bracket. Incredible. Just an incredible blunder by the NFL. I cannot believe it. I'm still not over that Saints game. It has nothing to do with the fact that I predicted Pats, Saints, and the Super Bowl guys. My bracket's still ranked like 34 out of the country. I've only missed 2 games the entire bracket. I'm doing fine. I didn't have money on them. I made a mistake bet. When I tried to select the Pats and the Rams in the Super Bowl, I selected the Pats and the Chargers and the Saints. when I meant to select the Pats and the Saints. So I didn't have any money riding on the game. It was just sickening to watch Drew Brees possibly end his career like that. The guy's got, what, maybe 1-2 years left? Does anybody think they're getting to the Super Bowl? They just had last year's blunder on that play against Minnesota, and now this? If you're a Saints fan, man, that sucks. Now, you don't go and start suing for loss of happiness of life or whatever they're suing for. That's crazy, but I feel your pain, man. I think the Saints are about to go through what the Niners are going through right now, a massive rebuild and some huge window closing and a decline there, guys, downfall. I was not impressed. Having said everything about all the calls to help the game close and the Chiefs in it, I don't feel bad for the Pats, because if you can't protect a lead for 30 seconds, I'll never feel bad for you. So I think I was supposed to write the Chiefs. Oh, yeah, no. Oh, what I was saying there was basically, even if the Chiefs had won that game, I wouldn't have said that the refs helped them win that game. And the reason, or I wouldn't have felt bad for the Pats. I would have said the refs helped them, but I wouldn't have said that I felt bad for the Pats. And the reason being is because the Chiefs drove down that field with 30 seconds left. 30 seconds left. Patriots drive down the field. Tom Brady shows his greatness to everybody, unveils the GOAT on the back of his jersey, drives his team down, no problem, score, win, touchdown. Game should be over. And it goes to overtime because the defense for the Pats cannot stop the Chiefs for 30 seconds. Wow, that's embarrassing. So, no, I would not have felt bad for the Pats if the Chiefs won that game. Edelman is one of the toughest players I've ever had the opportunity to watch. That's true, guys. Edelman is a tough SOB. I love that guy. He's undersized. He's not the quickest. He's not the fastest. But he is one of the toughest I've ever seen. That guy, he runs incredible routes. Him and Brady have incredible chemistry. Brady's putting it right in the breadbasket, but he's turning right at the perfect moment, finding the ball in the air at the last minute, snagging it out of the air. He's got great hands. And then he runs hard, and he is tough, man. Normally a guy his size would be running for his life. That guy's running for extra yards. It's very impressive to watch. Edelman, I give you props. You're doing great, man. Romo called every play in the Pats' last drive. Romo called out every play in the Pats' last drive, so maybe if he ever leaves the booth, he should be a defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. By the end of the game, that was a little coming at you there, Chiefs. By the end of the game was the first time I found myself rooting for. Oh yeah, by the end of the game was the first time I found myself rooting for the Pats in a long time, and that leads us to the Super Bowl, guys. It'll be the first time I'm rooting for the Pats in a Super Bowl in a long time as well. Being a diehard Niner fan, I'm not going to be pulling for the Rams. However, there is something to be said that if the Rams win this Super Bowl, they could possibly lose a lot of players to wanting that money, as that's what happens every year in this era of free agency. Once a team wins a Super Bowl, they then have to pay those players out, and you can never afford to keep hold of all of them, because now they've got a Super Bowl ring on that hand and in their resume. So, honestly, if the Pats win, great. I don't want to hear it from any Rams fans. Now that the Rams are in LA, it makes it even easier as a Niner fan to hate them. But if they win, I can see them kind of falling apart a little bit here. And maybe Goff becomes that quarterback that's just serviceable and gets paid a huge contract, even though, if the Rams had a quarterback that was better than just serviceable, they would do incredible things and possible multiple Super Bowls. But, if Goff wins this Super Bowl, it will be a huge contract for him. So, but look, as a Niner fan, I found both ways to be happy. But go Pats. I hope Brady wins this one. Oh, and last thing I will say here, guys, on the podcast, I do think that there is a huge difference between 5-4 and 6-3. Brady is currently 5-3 in his Super Bowl record right now. If he loses back-to-back Super Bowls to the Eagles and to the Rams, to a Nick Foles and to a Jared Goff, and his legacy does take a hit, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people who say, oh, man, it's one game, one Super Bowl. The fact that he's gotten to 9 of them is incredible. That is incredible. But then you also factor in the fact that he plays in a passing league era, in an era where they do everything to protect the quarterback. He does not play in an era like Joe Montana did, where he had to worry about his life every time he dropped back to pass. He was throwing to receivers that had to worry about their life every time they went over the middle for a reception. So you take that into account. Everything was set up to give Brady this long career, going to give him more chances to go to even more Super Bowls. Meanwhile, Joe Montana was 4-0 in the Super Bowls, and he played in an era where they were trying to take his head off every time he snapped that ball and dropped back to pass. Brady doesn't have to worry about that. They can't go high, they can't go low, and if they land on him they go middle and they land on him with their momentum, that's a penalty too. So Brady doesn't have to worry about that. On top of that, he's coming from one of the weakest divisions, and over a lot of these runs, the AFC has been the weaker conference too. Let's put the rat on the table, guys. The division of the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills and the Pats, it's a joke. Nobody in that division gives the Pats any sort of challenge at all. And so, therefore, they're guaranteed to punch a ticket to the playoffs every year. And on top of that, as division winners, they're guaranteed to punch a ticket past the wild card round in most cases. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you only got to win 2 games to make it to the Super Bowl most years. At most, you got to win 3. So 17, I think it's 18 out of the last 19 years they've made the playoffs or something like that. So I mean, that's a huge advantage, guys. That's saying that half the time, 9 Super Bowls, 18 out of the last 19 carry the 2. Yeah, that means half the time they make it to the Super Bowl. So 50% of the time when they get into the playoffs, they have the ability to win 2 games. It's not, again, your division that you play in is a big factor. So anyways, if Tom Brady adds another notch to his belt, goes to 6-3 in Super Bowls, I officially give him the nod. He is the GOAT. He is the greatest ever. If he loses this and loses back-to-back Super Bowls to young, upstart quarterbacks, replacement Nick Foles, and then also Goff. I know there's a lot of other people out there, guys, but this will be how it is perceived. He goes to 5-4. I take Joe Montana 4-0 over 5-4. It's similar to LeBron playing in the East, right? He goes to the finals every year. Oh my God, yeah, he doesn't win all the time, but he goes to the finals every year. Playing in the East. Let's see how he does in the West. Ooh, it looks like the Lakers aren't that good, guys. So I know I'm comparing basketball to football, but bottom line is this is a huge game for the GOAT. I wish him the best. I really do. Even as a Niner fan, I wish him the best. I do think he's that good. I think his defense lets him down a lot, but we'll see if he could defeat the interior pressure that he will get from Sue and Donald. This is The Green Zone. I'm Jimmy Havener, your host, as always, signing off for one last time, guys. Until next year, thank you for listening, you beautiful, beautiful listeners.